everyone. Welcome to the Yakima Valley Cog-Cast, where we have an opportunity to discuss people, events, programs, and issues that affect your neighborhoods. I'm Chris with YVCOG, and today we'll be talking with Vicki Baker, our Deputy Director here at COG. We're just going to share some of, I think, the highlights of what we do here. So I tracked you down, Vicki, to come to work here at COG. What was it that probably intrigued you the most about what we do?
My favorite part is the collaboration that we bring to our cities and the county. We offer an opportunity to save taxpayer dollars by pooling resources together, and I thought that was very powerful for our member cities, and it was definitely something I believe in, so I was pretty excited to join the team.
We were really excited when you joined our team. So when you came in, you had some great insight coming from the county and the operation over there, and being able to assist maybe some of our cities with the different processes, because some of our cities are small, and so they don't understand maybe how to go out and lobby for money for some of their projects. So how are you able to help them?
Well, I was pretty fortunate at the county to have the opportunity to work with our local legislators and go through the entire process of receiving funds for a county project, and had good relationship with the legislators and all of the cities after working through COVID together. We went through those shutdowns as a region and coordinated closely so that everybody was kind of on the same page as much as you could have been during that crazy time we all went through. But those relationships really helped. And so when somebody really has a project they can't, find a grant that fits, teaching a city how to work with a legislator for a budget proviso or some other mechanism to assist them. I love doing that. It's fun to help.
And you did a great job. So when we were formed in 1966, COG was really formed, they were being formed all over the United States. So there's approximately 500 COGs throughout the United States, and each of them serve their elected officials in a different way. But each of them are what we would call the round table. And so bringing the electeds from all of the different municipalities around this round table to be able to discuss some of the programs and the funding that they all share, to maybe come up with a way of centralizing a program. What is the benefit of that?
Well, I think it's not even accessible to a lot of cities. They would never dream of being able to do something like we put together with the crime lab. Mm-hmm. It's a program that they would not dream of having. They would not have the capability on their staff to be able to hire anybody at that level, first of all,
right.
But also even to put together all of the work that we did to get it going. When you share a person of high level and it's shared by 15 members, it becomes affordable, and you can get an expert to do something.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the power of it is really,
that is powerful. And speaking of the crime lab, so what was it that COG did to be able to bring all of the different communities together and be able to share that vision where they realized the benefit? And what was it that really brought them on board?
Boy, it took a lot of work and communication, going out to all the councils, to a lot of community organizations, community leaders, the police chiefs, the sheriff, everybody working together to get that message out and explain why it would be so impactful. It was wonderful to have the support of the prosecutor, Joe Burzek, and to have, the courts understanding the need to move things along with evidence. And so, the faster investigations, and then having people understand what that meant as far as closing a case sooner. Families are waiting.
Right.
And justice is not happening. And there was a lot of frustration about that. So I think people realized that the change it could bring and has been bringing. Yeah. Very important.
I agree. And Sheriff Udell, Chief Dan Chrisman from SELA at the time, went up and down this whole valley with us. And we were able to go into those different council meetings and not only share the vision of the entire region, but then tap into those specific police chiefs in that community and say, how is it that we can help you? And what do you think the overall statement was and the concern for them?
Well, I think the councils that I heard from just wanted to support law enforcement and a safe community. I think they all trust their chiefs. They have great people running those departments. I think that they needed to hear from them that they had a need and wanted that. Yeah. And then in retrospect, the success stories have been kind of fun. So to go back to Grandview, for example, and to stand with Chief Fuller and share a story about how his community was impacted by what we'd worked on together, that was lots of fun, and the council loved to hear that.
And talk about the staff at the crime lab. These individuals are just powerhouses. So impressed with the work they're doing.
Yeah, we were blessed with a great consultant to start with.
Yes, we were.
So Kristen Schaefer, who had tons of experience, came out of the Yakima Police Department and then crime lab experience. She was able to bring relationship that she had with Kathy Guile, who had worked at the Washington State Patrol crime lab and down in Las Vegas Metro doing firearms examiner work. I don't know what kind of horse trading happened, but she came here, and we have been blessed to have her as a leader of the lab, and then to bring in Charity Johnson with her years of experience and Michaela Black with her years of experience. It's a great team. And then, of course, the ATF contractor with Susanna. It's packed in there. But
it is packed. It is
but
packed.
They're a great team.
And ATF, so alcohol, tobacco, and firearms is who ATF is, for those who don't know. Talk about their partnership with us.
That embedding that person in there is pretty great. So we don't have to pay for a person to assist. And so she can enter cartridge cases into NIBIN, which is the National, am I going to remember, Integrated Ballistic Information Network.
Something like that.
Something like that. But it's an ATF program that takes 3D images of cartridge casings and compares. So if you put one in there, it goes out to that database and finds associations or connections to other shooting scenes. And so it helps identify if a firearm has maybe been used in another location and links cases together and gives a great lead. Well, instead of having to have staff enter things into NIBIN, we have Susanna to do that, and the ATF pays for that, which is great.
That is great. That's a huge savings for all of the communities here.
It is, because there's no cost.
Yeah.
So, and the work gets done without our staff having to do that. It means they have capability to do other things, which has also been very beneficial for a work associated with it, building up all the other technologies down there.
It's been exciting to watch them. And you're right, their knowledge and the skill level that they came in with, that we didn't even have to go back and train Kathy. She's one of the trainers for all of the NIBIN people throughout the United States. It's pretty exciting. So let's talk about transportation for a moment. So transportation became the federal designated transportation planning organization in the 70s. And then in the 90s, we became the state transportation planning organization. And we've only had 4 different managers in this role since that time. And so these people have really been able to look at the projects in the Yakima Valley and be able to get funding. But let's talk about some of the transportation projects now that you're seeing that Alan, our project manager, is able to really help focus on.
Well, I know he's been working with, for example, the Beltway project in Union Gap is a big one that's been a focus. I know he has so many programs that have lots of acronyms that I don't want to remember. And what's so nice about having Alan run that program is that he does know it so well that it's amazing to see him put together the pieces of the puzzle and get funding on a project. And I know you did that very recently too, helped something come together by being creative. And I think that's what COG does, though, is help our members get the funding, all the different pots together for a project to actually go.
Right.
It could take years.
It could.
Many, many years.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's one of the frustrations of government for so many people is, why does this take so long? And it isn't necessarily that it is the government, but we have to work through things like right of way. So if they are trying to gain right of way for an area of the road, they're going through negotiations with whoever owns that piece of property. And that can take a couple years. And then you when you go to construction, everything has to go out for bid, and you're looking at inflation and the costs of all of the actual construction. And so, unfortunately, it can take years. And I think that is probably a frustration on the public. I know it makes me crazy how slow government is. And, I'm always, can't we just speed it up? And unfortunately, there's so many boxes we have to check. But going back to Alan in our transportation manager, you're right. He really does know the different buckets of money that our cities can tap into, because even with the federal money that we receive to be able to pass on to those cities have to have a matching amount. Well, they may not have that. It could be 20%. Well, when you're looking at a $6 million project, that's a lot of money for our cities to come up with. And so what are some creative ways to be able to fund some of those big projects? So the Beltway, I know that the mill site is huge right now. And I think one of the other things I love about transportation is all of the partnerships there. So you have Yakima County, you have WashDOT, you have the city of Yakima, YVCOG. There's some businesses that are very interested in getting this also completed. So talk about that effort of working together with transportation and the benefit of that.
I don't even know. There's a lot you can say about all of that. The thing that I would kind of pile on and add is what we learned when we went to a conference recently about using transit for development and how powerful that can be. And that trend and the ways that we can maybe help that location specifically. You create housing around a place for transportation to be, and plan for folks who want to be more walkable. Generations coming up really do want to see a more walkable, or being able to use transit or another method to get around. And so planning for that blank slate, like the mill site or across the river, would be really powerful. But also, you're talking about all those different players. There's a lot of people and a lot of collaboration and a lot of coordination that happens. And it sounds like the way Alan has arranged, or the way the COG has arranged, the TAC, the Technical Advisory Committee, gets together and works on projects and prioritizes them. That's a team effort. They get together, and that's all of these public works folks from all across the valley, and they all want the money. But they all agree on prioritizing it on what's regionally beneficial.
I love working with them. They are so important in this whole process. And you're right. They understand that they need to step back and look at the big picture.
To me, that's one of the most powerful things about being part of the COG too, is that teamwork that happens. And I think that group especially understands that when a big project comes through, that it benefits everyone. And so they support it, even though they really wanted their street.
They wanted it, but they'll wait till next year.
So just waits in line.
They do. They do. And it doesn't stop them from moving forward with developing their plans for their program. They just don't have the money to actually start the process. So you said something about a conference we just came back from, and part of that conference was the development of an entire area. And I want to talk about the housing program here at COG, and also what we saw when we were walking around through Atlanta, Georgia. It's very warm. And we just got off the MARTA, which is their public transit subway. Subway.
We took the subway.
And how they were able to really develop a depressed area.
They took an area that was a lot of, built, it was used car lots and kind of big parking lots and not a lot happening.
And a lot of empty businesses where there was just weeds and
shuttered.
boarded up.
And so they turned all of that into housing so that people could hop right on that MARTA and go to work. And what they started with, kind of an anchor of that, was this project I thought was pretty amazing, where they took housing that was accessible for seniors and affordable for seniors, and they put it basically across the parking lot from a medical clinic.
And that was smart.
Well, I mean, if you want to walk to the doctor and then walk over to the MARTA and go anywhere and do anything. The thing that I thought was smart about it too is that it grew, and then all of the businesses who want to make money, because all of this housing was coming up all around there. They started popping in all those walkable businesses. You saw the pharmacies and the restaurants and all that just filled right into this little community. That just was nothing. Before, but it was intentional, and they planned it. Very, very smart.
They looked at their community and said, okay, we've got this area right over here. here where we need to do something, and some great restaurants where we ate.
We had some really good Japanese
We
food there.
did.
I like sushi. You
Yeah.
don't.
I don't like sushi, but I found something really good on the menu too. And so our housing program here, and we have Angelica, who is managing that and just knocking it out of the ballpark.
Yeah.
So
2 great programs that she's running. We've got, I'm trying to remember the title of these. So one of them helps senior citizens who have, they have to be of a lower income, and I
think it's a 60% AMI.
I think you're right. It's is it 30 to 60?
I think anywhere. So. Yeah.
But they do home repairs, emergency home repairs, ramps, grab bars, and they also go in and do an emergency. Like, I'm trying to remember one of those projects. Was it electrical?
Yeah, electrical box, a roof.
Yes, things
broken
like that.
Windows.
Yeah. All of that, really powerful, very helpful. They've helped a lot of people all across the valley.
And what's the benefit of that, though?
Well, if you think about it, especially with something like the electrical, those are going to put people out of their home. So if they can't stay there, and in case one of those, if I recall, was condemned, I think she had to leave her home.
She did.
One of the very first people that she helped, I think, had to leave and was kind of sofa surfing.
Right. Well, she had some medical conditions.
She did. And so that actually kept her in her home after the repair. So she was, and that's just so expensive to try to come up with alternative housing for a senior when they could stay at home, aging in place. It's a whole trend trying to get folks to remain in their homes by helping them have more accessible dwelling, like I said, the ramps and the grab bars and things to help them stay in their home. Very, very important. The other program is more health related. That's the Kresge Healthy Home program. That one's a little more related to mold, abatement, anything that has to do with the medical conditions. But it's the same requirements.
Right.
So it's income requirements that you want to have. And that has done some pretty amazing work too, all across the valley. I can't remember all the statistics right off the top of my head, but I do know they've been in many, many of our cities. And there's some great success stories too.
There are. Yeah. And the reason that we're not in the city of Yakima with these repairs.
So City of Yakima has their own program.
Right.
So they have basically the same program. They have the low-income senior citizen emergency. They're doing the same exact thing within Yakima. And then the rest of the valley is what
we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those ladies are just doing an amazing job. We're getting a lot of referrals.
Yeah, I think they're going to have a waiting list. There's so many. But I think last I heard, she had 17 projects, I think, lined up right now.
Yeah.
I think that's just one of the programs. I think between the two, there's more than that.
Right.
I know Alma's running around all the time.
She is. And out meeting with people. And I know some of the referrals are coming from social workers. The school districts are contacting them. We just have some of the homeless service providers are contacting them because some of these people, of course, if they're displaced and have nowhere else to go, they're on the streets. And we already have that homeless issue that we are trying to solve here.
Right.
And so being able to prevent more people from moving to the streets, that's a huge win for our entire valley.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere.
And I know that the City of Yakima, I'm sure, is referring because I'm sure they get people who are help, but they're not within the city limits. They can't do it. So
and then if
there's partnership there.
Yeah, if they call us and they're actually in the city limits, we can refer them over to Yakima too.
Exactly.
That has been great. And then we also do the land use planning. So we're, we just
so busy.
Are in the middle of the climate element, which I know is a hot topic. So maybe we can talk about that a little bit and our approach to that. And then we have the periodic updates coming up.
It's a lot. I don't know how
it is.
We have 2 guys and they are very, very busy. Byron and Albert, 2 guys doing all that plus current planning for all of our cities too. So they are very busy. Climate element, I think they're looking at projects that just help. They call it resiliency.
Right.
So looking at ways to make sure the grid and things like that are improved and supported. And I think
or if we have a year of a drought, what is the plan of our communities? Are you going to continue to water your plants? Or are we going to look at maybe doing some drought resistant plants out in our landscapes? Or do we just need to put some awnings for some shade on the sidewalks?
They had a whole bunch of really good ideas.
They
for
did.
That stuff.
Yeah, some great ideas.
And what I liked about it too is that they're going to go to these city councils and they're going to give them a menu of options. And so it's not a mandate. They just come to them and say, "What do you think about these strategies that would help?" And I think it's real common sense stuff to me.
It is. We may not like the buzzword, and we may think, "What? what, but I think our approach really is, and another thing I love about COG, our approach is all of the authority stays in that city. So even though we have that menu of options, what one of our city chooses to do may not be the same thing another city chooses to do.
Yeah.
And so as we're developing these plans, some of it we are required to have specific things in there that the state is pushing down on us. But also our cities get to make some decisions of what that will look like.
Yes. And our cities, based on everything I've been through, all have different opinions.
Yes.
The councils want what they want for their community. And I think that's absolutely the way it should be.
Yep.
And that, so we do allow them to customize and create exactly what they like to see in their plans.
Yeah.
So but it's a lot. And Byron and Albert go out and they provide these options, these councils, and explain all of these things to them. It's a lot. They're great, those two.
Yeah.
Experts for sure.
They are.
Yeah.
And then they've also started the periodic update, which are a comp plan for each of the different municipalities. And that comp plan has what their goals are, what their objectives are, what their projects are for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's an opportunity for the cities to open up that plan and update them with whatever new laws have come out. So we need to make sure that they're compliant there and then be able to put in what their new goals are. And that makes them eligible for funding.
Well, there's that opportunity. And then there's also an opportunity for that current council to set a pathway for 10 years.
Right.
And if they really look at those elements and talk about the different elements and ask good questions, you can get some pretty nice strategic planning in there.
And you're right. It's one of those plans that please don't put it back on the shelf and let it get dusty, right? Because the planners all understand we need to go by this, and your public works people know that we need to go by this, and we have to update our comprehensive plan if we want to make changes. But all of that information for those electeds in each of the respective cities is important. And when they understand the importance, they love to dig into that.
Oh, yeah.
They want to make those decisions.
Well, exactly. And I think if they think about it that way, that it's a strategy document and it's not just a piece of paper for the shelf, it's an opportunity for them to make decisions and set goals for their people who will look at it and use it, to your point. So yeah, I know that our cities it's a daunting task to go through all of that. And it's a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of stuff to review.
It's government.
Yeah, it is. I don't like that part. But it's really, it's powerful though. And it does get them all thinking about the future.
It does. It does. And then let's talk about GIS a little bit. So our mapping, and we have a couple other tools that we use also to be able to give a city a map that tells them a story.
Yeah.
So
I think it's important to have visual things. When you're talking to someone and you give them a report that's 5-10 pages long of text, and especially a city, and those councils get a lot of paper to review every week, and they're like, oh, here it is again, more paper. But if you can really give them nice maps and demonstrate what you're trying to show, like we really want to see this rezone or whatever it is you're demonstrating, having that in a map is so much more powerful for an elected to see what you're doing.
Right.
And I think it also helps the public who is watching, because when they start talking about plat A and whatever, you just hear in the audience going, what are they doing? I don't understand what's going on. But the map is just great. So and I think it can be used in so many ways.
Going back to when you were first hired on here, and one of the first things that we did together was community outreach and engagement in Toppenish. And we were able to ask for a map to be put together so that we understood the housing stock in Toppenish and the age. So we knew, are we concerned about lead paint on a home, and a lot of data. But those maps, I think, helped us when we brought those different committees together from our outreach.
I think the picture, again, being able to see, if you're going to put together a map and you have it, in our case, we had, I think, the deepest color of red for houses that were, older than I'm trying to remember the year, was it 70 something, I think, is when the lead-based paint went away.
Right.
Before that date. So everything, the deeper red, it was the older that it got. And the more likely it was that there was some lead paint in that house.
Right.
But when you saw the that most of that map was red. That was really an attention grabber that, oh, wow, this is a community that really has a lot of housing that's been around a long time.
Right.
And if you're going to get into walls or do anything, you might find some things here.
Right.
And I think the other kind of mapping that's with housing, there's lots of really cool maps you can do with housing. I thought it was amazing to see the map. Most recently, Jeff created one that showed multifamily housing and where it existed in a community.
Oh.
So if you're a council and you're looking at your community and you're thinking, we have lots of apartments, but then you look at the map and you realize you just have a little tiny pocket down in that corner. It really does help you see how your community is laid out.
Right.
How the zoning actually came together with, what you thought you created versus what exists.
Right.
I think it really helps in maybe we should encourage some over here, or maybe we need to make some changes about how we set those policies. So, but again, visual.
Yeah.
Because it could be a 10-page report, but I'm not going to read that.
No, I'm not going to read it either. And show me a picture, please, because that does help me understand.
Yeah. I think it's just, you can read it. It's just not the same as seeing it. I think especially for the public and for council members who have paperwork overload.
And what's that song? A picture paints 1,000 words.
It's true in this case.
Yeah. There it is.
GIS is very powerful.
It is. It's very powerful. And the other part that's really powerful is community outreach and engagement. And after we had the opportunity to partner with Commerce and actually do that engagement and go through that whole process, it became a priority for us to be able to offer that to our cities. So let's talk about Maria and how awesome she is.
She knows everybody.
She does know everybody.
She's in every community. She's everywhere all the time. And she's bilingual. She's got tons of connections. And I think she can talk to anyone. She'll just walk up and talk to anyone.
Yeah.
And she's a great listener too. So all of that about Maria. The thing that I thought was amazing about the outreach that we did and what I learned about outreach is the power of it. I mean, I know it's important to go out and listen to people,
right?
But I never really thought about that being important in government. People just, you do all those governmenty things, whatever they are, you don't think about it, but it's super important to go out and listen to the community, what they want, and come back. So elected officials hear a wide variety of different voices saying, this is what we want. And what we learned is that you can't do it in a survey. You have to go out to where the people are.
Where
and so
they
that's
are.
What we did. We popped up out in the park and at the food bank and all around town.
We were everywhere.
But because of that, we got a wide variety of different people, and we heard a lot of really good information that we were able to take back to that council and say, this is what we heard specifically. And I think that helps the council not be surprised with a community reaction to something.
Yeah.
If you had a policy that you wanted to create or change something, and you think what your community wants, and we have a fun story from Grandview about that. Norm Childers told me, back in the day, he thought he had a great idea about, and it had to do with catios. He was going to create this catio policy. And so guess what? The community didn't love it. They packed his council, and they were mad as hatters about this catio policy he created. But still, if you had done outreach and you'd even asked 100 people in the community, popped up anywhere and said, what do you think of this? They would have said, oh no.
Right.
And he wouldn't have, been surprised.
Right.
At least,
because I think some of these I think all of our councils are trying to do the best that they can for their community, and they're trying to give their community what they think their communities want and provide solutions to what they think the issues are. But it's different when you're out there and you're talking with the people.
I think also with council members, they can't be everywhere, and they don't have time to stand at the food bank like we did and ask people questions. They really do have a good lens on the community. People do call their council members. But I think it may be that they're hearing about what those people care about, but it's different when you go out with questions and say, what do you think about public safety and this and this specific thing? And they get feedback on that. I think it's just, council can't be everywhere to know, everything before setting a policy.
Right.
So I really learned from that whole thing. Outreach first. If you're going to do anything of consequence or new, or, just listen. Well,
and every time you're filling out a grant application.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, that's a new thing too.
Yeah.
I think Commerce, they told us about it, I think about 3 years ago now.
Right.
Maybe even longer. That's how long I've known that they prefer to see outreach. They want to know the community supports something. It's a community-led initiative. Because if it is, you get a grant because they know the community wants it. And it makes sense if you think about it. The state was probably funding a lot of great ideas from leadership down, and then they fund a grant, and then people, maybe it was a catio grant, and then we're gonna do this, and then the community says, oh no, we don't want you to do that, and then the city sends sends back the money, and it was a big hassle for commerce and didn't go.
Right.
So now they do a contract when they know the community wants it.
And it's the same thing with the feds also. So when we're filling out applications for federal funding of a program or a project, how does this impact the entire region? You know, do you have support? Which is why when we ask for our letters of support, we go back to our members, because if it impacts those communities in a positive way, then we know we're on track at COG with doing the right thing.
That's so true. And we've heard that from our federal delegation too. They like to know that our cities support anything that we're doing. So I know that goes back to outreach, and Maria, she's doing a great job. She's getting out there listening and lets us know what she hears. And we send out surveys, different kinds. She's been everywhere.
She is. And she started up a ton of community block watch. Is that what we're calling it?
I think it's neighborhood watch.
Neighborhood watch. Okay.
Yeah. So she's been working in multiple communities, and down in Sunnyside, she has a business one. The downtown businesses, I think, are banding together to do their own. You know, seeing things like that really makes the community safer, and she will put it together. She'll go out and do the meeting and work with the police department and make it happen. She's done lots of that. Yeah.
And I know those businesses appreciate it, because when they go home at night, they love the fact that somebody is watching and will call in if they see something strange or suspicious. And it could be absolutely nothing, or it could be something.
It's kind of old school. It's looking out for each other and just helping each other. And they really banded together and decided to do that. I think we saw the same thing in communities all across the valley, in communities who just wanted to have that relationship with their neighbor. But the world has changed. So neighborhood watch, going back, 20, 30 years ago, would be in your garage and you'd be making hot dogs, and I'd come over and we'd hang out and we'd talk about this. But nowadays, they're doing Facebook groups or group texts. They're connecting through Ring doorbell apps. I mean, they've got all kinds of different ways of connecting a neighborhood. So she can help with that too.
Right. And I think about the benefit of something like that, especially if you have senior citizens in your area, just to do a well check on them, making sure everything's okay, especially in this heat that we're on in the middle of this. So just that communication, because you're right, we just don't talk to our neighbors the way we used to.
And so sometimes, because it has become such a text and, digital society, having somebody like Maria make those introductions helps.
Yeah.
She'll do the meeting, invite everybody, and then get you connected.
And connect you. That's awesome. And Jody putting together our webpage.
I know.
Who
Jody
is doing an amazing job also.
Yeah.
I can't brag enough about the staff here. Can I just say that before, we talk about how great Jody is?
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's a great team.
It is a great team.
And I think it's the teamwork is when you have a big project, and the website was a big project.
Yeah.
Jody and I worked on that together,
Yes.
but we also had everybody pitch in because we have all those pages. All the program managers had their own desires, wishes, and needs for their sites. And we're still working on that. It's a big one. But having all of them work together, you're right. This team does do that. Help each other.
They do. And the time that Jody takes when she gets information and being able to share that information with the public, so important, because we all know we're supposed to be transparent. We're trying to be transparent, but we may not know really what is it that the community cares about. What do they want to be able to review and see government doing? Because they don't want wasted money. I don't either. Great. But what is it that they really care about, and getting that on the webpage for those people?
Yeah, Jody has an amazing ability to take all of our stuff and just turn it into something understandable, and relatable. And she cleans it up and makes it great. And she's also got a really good lens in general, just on everything that we do at the COG. I mean, she is somebody who can figure things out when everybody's just like, what are we going to do with this? Jody's always got ideas. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, that is great. And then, of course, let's not forget this, our Cog-Cast, our media.
Yeah.
So Shane.andreas is doing all of that for us. So not only the Cog-Cast, which is awesome, but also some information like with outreach, where Maria will have videos online, or we'll be able to put different videos online, interviewing people through community outreach engagement. What do you see?
I think
here.
this is going to be a new way to reach a different group of folks too. And I think anytime you have our valley has some media, there's also a vacuum of information,
Right.
And so putting anything out for content that's coming straight out of the government, straight out of the COG, is related to our cities. It's factual information. It's something that can be, direct to the people. It's just the facts.
Right.
And I think also the different programs. I know I could imagine there will be a ton of interest in what Crime Lab ever puts out, because it's so fun and everybody loves CSI.
I know.
We have our own little mini version.
Except our people don't wear heels. They're actually running around working.
They are not as much glamour.
No.
Just a little bit glamour, but not as much glamour. But they do have great stories to tell, and I'm sure that would be lots of fun to do. And I think transportation could do a lot of safety interviews, people on the street. How do you drive that roundabout? Really, I think people would maybe need some training out there. I've seen some crazy stuff in a roundabout.
I have. I've seen people stop in a roundabout.
Well,
and I'm thinking,
yeah.
But you know what? They didn't have that in driver's ed when I took driver's ed.
Me neither.
Just but a few years ago.
Watch out for those semis in there. Just don't assume they can see you. They cannot.
Right. Yeah.
No, but still, transportation could be lots of fun. And you think about all of our programs. There's a lot of information that can get out to the people, and for our cities, all of our elected officials, all of the things happening in the different cities. It'll be lots of fun.
It is going to be fun. And the whole idea of spotlighting our individual members is going to be so exciting, because it's going to be talking like specifically to Grandview about Grandview.
Right.
What are the projects? What do you have going on? So that those people who live there will have even more information and hopefully be able to find ways to get involved, because it is their community.
Well, yeah. And it's not like we always have the local, reporter headed down there to cover just the little stuff that's going on in the community that you may drive by and say, what's going on that corner?
Yeah.
And the mayor or, somebody could come and share.
Very exciting. And then also some of our other members, like and Yakima Health District, some of those others that are doing really important work here that people would be interested in.
I think so. There's a lot happening. So I think you'll be very busy doing this.
I know.
It's been kind of fun.
It is very fun. This has been awesome. You have been so awesome to have here at YVCOG. And I am going to miss you very much, but I am so excited for you. And I'm excited to see the next chapter of your life. And I want you to know some of the input and the things that you have done here is why we are just moving along and so successful. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been really fun. And I never thought that this would happen, and I've absolutely loved every minute working with this team. I've learned a lot. I think about the beginning of all of it, and I had no idea what you were ever going to do with me, but I've learned how everything. I mean, I've just learned. I didn't realize how much I didn't know, and I've learned a lot when I got to dig in and actually hands-on do things. At the county, it was different. I had a lot of staff members and a lot of people doing things, and I did not know what was happening behind the scenes kind of stuff.
Right.
And I actually had opportunities to write grants, administer, do things like that here, work directly with the cities, the city managers, the city administrators, the staff members, the councils. It's been a great 3 years. I've loved it.
Well, I think one of the things that made you so successful is you were willing to jump in with 2 feet and start digging into things. And I think that was huge. And I think that our cities truly appreciated the fact that you wanted to learn really what was affecting them in positive ways and negative ways, so that we could work on solutions together.
Yeah, it's been fun doing exactly that, and the strategic visioning too.
Oh yeah.
And working with the councils on their goals and priorities, and learning about how city government operates and kind of the pain points and all of that in working with them. They have so much in common. The different cities have so much in common.
They do.
But they also have their unique identities. And
I love that.
Yeah. It's been lots of fun doing that too.
It is. Well, thank you. And thank you for tuning in to our first Cog-Cast. I hope you hit the subscribe button and join us next time.